So back to our eslint.json. So we're going to create a file here. This one we do have to configure a little bit. So the first thing we're going to say is extends. And we're going to give an array of things that it extends, right? So this is like sets of rules to use. So the first one that I'm going to say is use eslint : recommended. Then we're going to use prettier and prettier/react. So what is extends, right? So eslint is configurable down to the rule, right? So there's probably hundreds of rules that you can use with eslint. We're going to be using basically like the bare minimum set here, which is eslint recommended. Like everything in eslint recommended, everyone should be running all the time. I don't think that's a controversial opinion to state, right? It's a pretty bare minimum set of things, like don't have variables that you never use. That's one of them, right? Or don't use like with or something like that, right? Which is like a super old construct in JavaScript. Now there is a bunch of ESLint configs, right? There's standard, which I taught previously before. There's Airbnb, which is one that I taught as well before. And those ones are much more opinionated. And so I've kind of just started using ESLint recommended because, again, it kind of goes along with my methodology that anytime that you introduce friction into a developer's ecosystem, they start writing code slower because they're fighting the tools instead of writing code, right? So in general, I want developers to write code however it flows into their brain, right? And not hinder them, and only hinder them on things that are totally necessary, right? Like, so this will catch bugs, but it's not going to force you to write code in a specific way. Does that make sense? And how opinionated you want to get about that is up to you. Okay, so this is those. We're going to say plugins. We're not going to give it any plugins right now, but let's just go ahead and put that in there. We will put some in there later. Parser options. Okay, so the ECMA version we're going to be using, let's do 2018. So we're going to be using the latest version of it that it understands, which is 2018. I don't think 2019 is quite out yet. Source type. We're going to be using modules. ECMA features. We're going to be using JSX, which is put that into true. So ECMA version 2018, this means we can use things like async await. We can use things that came with ES6, things like that. Module means that we're going to be using import and export, right? ES modules. ECMA features, JSX. In a second, we're going to be writing JSX here, so we're just going to put that in there so it understands that. And then two more things down here at the bottom. Env. We're going to be using ES6, so it's not going to choke on things like async await, for example. Whoops. So ES6 true. One of them is going to be browser true. So this means like there's going to be things like set timeout and document and window and things like that. And node, because eventually we will be writing node later in this class. So don't choke on things like HTTP and require and things like that. So these are defining global variables. Okay, so this is I use this ESLint file frequently. So this is a pretty good, just like baseline ESLint file. It's not super opinionated. Okay, next thing I want you to do inside of your package.json, we're going to put another command in here. And put lint. And we're going to put eslint. And we're going to put that inside of quotes here, and we're going to put it in everything inside of source ***/ dot JS and JSX. Except we're not even going to do JSX today in terms of files. Whatever, you can leave it like that. That's what my notes have. And then you can put in here --quiet so that it's kind of noisy, and quiet just kind of removes some of the noise from that. So now, whenever we run ESLint, it's going to run ESLint across our app.js file as well. But whatever JS files we put in there, it'll run. So just to kind of prove my point to you, we're going to say npm run lint. And it looks like we have something, which we should, right? It says React is not defined because it doesn't know where React is coming from. So if we come into our app.js, it's going to say, hey, what's React? Like, I don't know what that is. So where did that come from? Which is what it should say, right? Because it doesn't know. So we'll fix that here in a second, but now this is working. Now, again, I don't run that npm run lint command very often because now it's just inside of my editor, right? I can see that red underline. I can hover over it and say, this is not defined. You need to fix this. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. There's an extension for all major editors, but come in here to extensions, search for one called ESLint, and it's this one, which has about almost 20 million downloads. So install that one as well, and that should just work. So once you have the ESLint one installed here, ESLint, like that, you should start seeing these things inside of your editor. So if you don't like ESLint, one, you should, because I think it's a great tool. It's, again, one of my favorites, because it really does help me be a more productive developer, right? Like if I say things like const x equals 5 and then never use it later, it's going to say, hey, no one used variables, right? Like you created this variable and then you never use it, so why do you have it, right? And often that's a case of like, let's say like I went down here and I accidentally said react.createElement app with 1p, right? It's going to say, I don't know what that is, right? So it immediately highlights these errors like this, or if I put like 3p's in there or something like that. It helps me catch a lot of like really common dumb errors like that very quickly, as opposed to like when I go deploy into production and everything crashes because I put an extra p in there. Not that I've ever done that. So, big fan. So I like ESLint because it's very extensible. So you and I can both write custom ESLint rules. Like when I worked at Netflix, we had a ton of custom ESLint rules. But there are other tools. Like one of them would be JS Hint, which is has been around forever. There's JS Lint, which Douglas Crockford created. But I'll just say that ESLint is very much the standard, and it's the one that I suggest that you use. It's actually been adopted by the JS Foundation. So it's which used to be the jQuery Foundation and is now called the OpenJS Foundation. So